This week, I thought I'd talk about a subject that's a bit close to my heart. It's about long distance relationships and whether they can really work. Now, I've been in a long distance relationship and it was a pretty serious one. Now, that relationship didn't work out, and I'd certainly learnt a few things from it. So, for those of you who are in long distance relationships or, have your doubts about it, I want to shed some light on things that I've learned, and if I can help someone realize some things of their own, then I think that would be really cool. Okay, so first of all, you need to realize that the distance isn't really what kills a long distance relationship. It's more of just a temporary inconvenience. Okay, when you think about it, when you first fall in love with somebody, certain things about that person stop mattering, like, whether they're tall, they're old, they're short, whether they're rich, unemployed, and stuff like that. It doesn't really matter as much if you love that person. And that connection comes from, being open to something and feeling that connection and, gaining that kind of intimacy with somebody. So knowing that, usually when you love someone, the distance doesn't seem to matter as much. Now, when people come to me and they say, their relationships failed and it was a long distance, and how do they get that person back, and because of the distance, and I have to say it's not often the distance. Okay, the fundamental things that make a long distance relationship work is still going to be pretty much the same as a local relationship. But I will say there are some differences I want you to keep in mind when you're in one, especially to how you think about it, how you go about it, because the amount of work it takes is going to be different, obviously. So first of all, think in a local relationship, you meet somebody, you have a connection, chemistry, you start dating, you start hanging out with each other, you spend a lot of time with that person in person, and things can develop really, really quickly. Now, in a long distance relationship, and I'm talking to those whose relationships have mostly developed through long distance. So whether you started off meeting each other in person, and then the distance happened, and then you fell into this long distance thing, and then most of your relationship was spent in long distance, then those are the ones I'm also referring to. Then actually you'll find that in a long distance relationship, how your relationship progresses with that person is a lot slower than a local relationship. So what I mean by that is, think about how you can communicate with someone. Okay, when you're communicating with someone through only limited means like text messaging, email, Skype, webcam, on the phone, through videos and things like that, it's all very, very flat. You only see a screen, it's very small, or you only see text, words, it's the amount you can communicate through that is very, very small, very limited. So you're not going to pick up a lot of the nuances about that person like you would, if you were face to face in front of that person. And those little things in a local relationship, we tend to take for granted after a while, right? So if you're really into someone, you spend 24/7 with that person, eventually you come to a point where you become comfortable with them because you're so used to them, and the trust between you have been built up so quickly. Now, in a long distance though, you don't get that. You get the connections through talking and relating and things like that, but you're still lacking this whole big other side to that person, and also that person is missing that side to you. So because you don't have that, you're not going to be able to build the same level of trust and comfort in the same amount of time. Okay, so for example, if you're in a 2-year long distance relationship, that may be the equivalent of a 6 months local relationship, just because how often you talk and the connections you build are so limited. So that's something to keep in mind. The amount of work it takes to maintain that connection and the communication is, so much more important. Okay, being in a long distance relationship myself, I have learnt much more about being able to communicate in a relationship than anything else, than all my other relationships, because you have to. You're forced to communicate in ways and creative ways that you never had to before. If you think of a normal local relationship, people spend a lot of time together, sure, and they do a lot of stuff. And then after a while, they become complacent. They become used to each other. They take each other for granted. They don't talk as much as they used to. They don't do cute little things for each other anymore because they have that physical presence, each other's presence there, and that comfortness takes over, and all that other stuff doesn't seem to be as important anymore. Well, you don't have the luxury of that in a long distance relationship, but it's actually a good thing, because then it forces you to try harder to maintain the freshness and variety in your relationship. So often you'll write more love letters and love videos for your partner, and you really maintain that spark a lot longer. And I guess this is also why a 1 year long distance technique, it's a lot more common for people to stay in that honeymoon stage in a long distance relationship than in a local relationship, due to that thing. So that is the benefit, actually. So it really trains you to put the effort in to communicate. Now, because you have to communicate, you really need to make sure that you do communicate, and you need to, first of all, make sure you're both on the same page with where the relationship is at. What are the boundaries? What are the rules? What does it mean? What is the relationship? Okay, is it okay for you to sleep over at your friend's house who happens to be a guy, or have guy friends around, or whatever, hang out with your guy friends? Is it okay for your partner to do that with women, or whatever? So you really need to establish the rules and see what is okay and what's not, get comfortable there. And the other thing is needing to be completely transparent with each other. Okay, so you need to know all your partner's friends' names, what they look like, what kind of relationship your partner has with those people, and you also need to do the same to your partner. You need to tell them everything about you and your relationships, and so both of you are completely transparent about what is happening in your lives and the relationships that you have, so you don't fall into the trap of becoming jealous or insecure because you're not with that person all the time like you normally would. So you need to at least reassure each other, through words and through sharing pictures and things like that. Now, this may seem excessive, if this happened in a normal relationship, but really it's not, because if you're in a normal, local relationship, you'll meet those friends or family members or anyway of your partners. So because you lack that ability, then you need to share everything through, more creative means, like through photos or Facebook or things like that. Okay, so that's really, really important. The other thing is how to deal with this distance, because I see a lot of people go into these long distance relationships and there's a big question mark on how is this distance going to end? When is it going to end? And, often it'd be like, I don't know, maybe when this happened, maybe when school finishes, or that sort of half-baked plan. You and your partner really, really need to sit down and plan it all out, have a very solid plan on when the distance is going to end, how is it going to end, who is going to move to who, stay with who, why, what time would be best, and things like that. And you need to talk about all these things, all the details, and start planning for those things. Because if you leave it up in the air, it's all fuzzy, you don't want to talk about it, and it's uncertain, then sooner or later, one or both of you will have doubts, and they'll be much more they're much more tempted to, tempted by other people, or, because they're not going to take the relationship as seriously. It's not going to be as strong if you don't have a clear end goal in mind. And really, this is also another bonding factor. If you can do something with your partner that, creates a common goal for yourself, this will make you a lot stronger too. If you're saying, I'm doing this, I'm taking this job to work hard at this job so I can afford to be with you, and they're also doing things, working hard to be with you, then, you actually become a lot stronger. Okay, you're really trying, and because you're striving towards a common goal. And this is something that I think a lot of local relationships fail to do, because it's that, like, one person goes off to work and has their life, and the other person does their thing, and there's often not a common goal that they're both striving towards. It's all a bit vague, and when that happens, then the relationship tends to get stale, and it tends to get a bit boring, and like it's not moving anywhere. So if you can, try to set that common goal, even if you're not in a long distance relationship. So that's definitely something I recommend. Now, if there's any uncertainties when you have these discussions, as it may come up, may happen, then you might need to look at them as red flags, because you might think, you're all in for this person, you're willing to put in the work, but if they're not, if they have doubts for whatever reason, then you really want to know about it now. You don't want to put all this effort in, and then 6 months later, they leave you for someone else. That's kind of devastating. If you can know now, it's better to know now. And that's the other thing. If you're uncertain yourself, which way to go, whether you should pursue this relationship or it's just not worth it, and that sort of thing, well, you also need to take some time to decide for yourself. You're either going to be all in and put the work in and the effort to, get this relationship going and be strong, or nothing kind of thing. Because if you find yourself in this uncertainty, I'm sort of in, but I'm not totally sure, just in case someone else comes along sort of thing, then if the relationship fails, then, first of all, it could take months. It'd be dragged out, it'd be slow, and you won't learn as much as well, because you're kind of waiting then for life to come in, life to step in and make that decision for you. And, you're not really then going to learn as fast in your next relationship. Okay, if you put yourself all in, make a decision now, then you'll know, okay, at least you've given it your all and it didn't work out, then your next relationship you can move on and have a clear conscience about it. Okay, so often I see people still thinking about their past relationship because it felt unfinished, or they didn't put everything in, or they were half-assed about it, and then they have regrets. So you want to avoid that sort of stuff. So definitely, I think, if you're uncertain, why not just give it a go? It doesn't hurt to have a go, and, at least for a while, to see whether it can work. And if it doesn't, if the other person's not all in it, and, it's not going to be, you're not as compatible, then, at least that just wouldn't have worked out. And the other thing is too, by having these really in-depth, serious discussions, you'll save yourself the headache and time, right, of going through all this stuff and then realizing that this person wasn't the right one, because you met them and you just didn't think they were it. So at least if you get it all sorted now, then you'll know, okay, you have a clear plan of action, what to do about your relationship, how to make it work. Or if it's just too much for you, then, you're going to back out. And really, there's nothing wrong with backing out of that decision, because if you have a choice of choosing to find, the right one for you, you're halfway across the world or someone locally in your area, I'm sure most people would pick the person who's local because it's so much easier that way. So yeah, so that's basically it for this week, and maybe I'll have more to say about this topic. I don't know. If you have any questions concerning long distance or anything really about relationships and dating, please let me know, and I'll get back to you in another video. Thanks.